afternoon. Grand afternoon. Oh, afternoon. Grand uprising in some places. Welcome to Karmic Dynasty. Welcome to all of you. I am here today speaking on the origins of Moon Night. My guest is here in studio. Buddha, Eternal El Bey is here. Welcome to Karmic Dynasty again. Speaking on behalf of my audience, we are all excited and we're honored to have you here again on the platform. If you would at this time introduce yourself to everyone and those who know you. We're going to speak greetings to them again today. Gratitude again for being here on Karmic Dynasty.
Greetings. Peace in the TV land, the YouTube. I'm Buddha Eternal El Bey. I've been in the energy of life for quite some time. The high blood pressure was the wake-up call. When you wake up from that, it starts to not only let your inner core, yet the outer core, to even from seeing your grandmother and other people like your grandfather and, people who are in your family, the stronger pieces, when they pass away, you see what is it that, caused the effect. And from the result, we want to find solutions. So I'm part of the community, been doing the community thing for a minute. Haven't got out of it because I'm already in it. So yeah, thank you. I end up seeing you. And so you even connecting to me made it a point where I know it's major for our women to know this more just as much as the men, so that when women can be explaining it towards men, we all can get this same left and right. And I'm not saying just women grasping this. I'm also saying men grasp it too. We got to learn why we're unlearning and why we need to relearn it, because it's right there. Everything's in front of us.
Gratitude for sharing that with us. Definitely. Grand Uprising Royal speaks Shariri L, hashtag Unoccupied Turtle Island. She reminds us to like, share, subscribe, and comment. I appreciate everyone supporting the platform continuously. And we have a presentation and a few things to share with you. Just a heads up, we are planning for this to be a part 2 as well. So stay tuned for more. Definitely a part 2. I feel this coming. I feel it. All right. So let's see. This is the first image that you have wanted everyone to see.
Yes. When we think of Moon Night, the movie is an explanation. As a brother broke it down, the brother you had up here before, he was giving you a lot of great clues. What was the brother name again?
Michael Cole.
Yeah, he dropped some jewels on this movie, and it's not even a movie; it's a series. They really couldn't explain it to you like a movie yet until it had to, because when you think about what comic books do, they give us a platform that's a flat form, and so you have to have an imagination to where they're leading us into, and because what makes it a part of like the Twilight Zone, because like in Twilight Zone you got 12 hours, and once the 12 hours hit, it's like you should be laying down, and if not, you stuck into what we call a Twilight Zone. And this is like a great explanation to like Moon Night. When you look at Moon Night, it's like a twilight. It's an energy of the Trinity. It's not just a duality, it's a Trinity. And when you tap into this movie or series, I know that a lot of people want to dog the movies first because, or series, whatever they have it, to be first the negative of it. That's always going to be the first foundation. So when you look at anything, just like if you look at me, be like, oh man, this brother, he's a brother. It's like, oh, and he's dark skinned. So we'll start to make, well, why is that got to be an issue, or what made that, And so when you look at Moon Knight, you start to see that yes, Khonsu represents this actual connection of the deity. And when you look at the Ankh was the representation that was missing when they put it into this. So now, when we start off with negative, I'm gonna say that was my negative. Then you starting off with a deity form that we're supposed to be all aware of, and they had to put it in a comic book first. So when they did that, they had to make it more interesting. They put Cloak and Dagger with it. They put Spider-Man with it. So they made it more of a soft way of introducing this being, or whoever this being is, in character. And, this is like 70s. So if you look at Batman is the same aspect. And they put it out around the same time frame. Yet they couldn't put Batman like, that connection to him. So this picture right here, you're seeing that this is that higher glyph of Ma'at. And so you're seeing the bird form. And so that's why you can see a trinity versus just a duality. And so when we talk about twilight basically could sound like it's saying two, but this is really showing you symbolically three. And when you show Khonsu represents, as you saw that lock, there was one side, the lock's coming out of the head. So it's like letting you know this is also one of nobility of, like, say, Buddhahood. Buddhahood represents one who has a bald head, right? And then they go back to forming their hair because they know it's like a tree. It's like leaves that fall on the earth and it reforms itself, and it comes out of spores or spirals. So inspiration and aspiration is the asp. So they call it the snake. So locks is like the same form of a snake. And so you look at King Tut, things like that, they actually put the snake up there. And you think of vulture, vulture is mut. So you hear the word mut. Mut is represented as the mutter or mother. When you look at the mother, I'm going to give you a snapshot right quick. The mother, see the mother right here, mut. That's mut. That's the vulture. Ooh, that's the vulture right there on her head. So it represents eating the dead, or going into night, going into the death. You know what I'm saying? So you'll find out, like, a lot of people go to clubs and they get, somebody end up getting hurt or something. But that's like on the negative side. That's the duality behind it. So in Duat, we call it Duat or Tuat. We're taught the Thoth. The Thoth is the Thoth or the thought. And then there's this thought that people call people. Even though these words be like, wait, what? Huh? What? Oh. So you transforming and transmutation. Mut represents in mutation. So when you hear mut, you're actually saying mother. We just don't know what type of mother. So now it is a dependency on chemicals. Chemic represents one thing. Chemical represents another. So when we were seeing the young brother that we saw as Khonsu, that's a form of livelihood from a child to an adult man and then to the elder. So the elder would have been seeing it as the bird form, because you got a lion form and then you got a cub form. And a cub form can be like, a little baby lion. So you see, this is the other connection. Why we know about Sekhmet and what they were doing in the movie. He went into the 9 Enods. I said, the 9 Enods? Oh, he going in here. He was like, yeah, did you know it's not about the 7 Enods, it's about the 9 Enods? I said, oh, he dropping jewels. I said, oh, they going in here with this?
Yeah, they shocked me with that one too. I was like, what? They sharing what? On Disney?
Yeah, and we can say Enods, they can say Enades. It might mess the mind up or not knowing what we're saying.
Right.
Yet it represents those realms. And so when we think of realms, we have to think of those realms like mother giving us birth. And so how does mother give us birth with this masculine form without putting a feminine form? And so this is why the bird was the illustration. This is why the Ankh was the first thing that they supposed to put out there, but they didn't. Do you remember what they put out as a symbol for him?
The moon, the crescent
Yeah,
moon.
the crescent moon.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going into, we
Mm-hmm.
know crescent moon from an Islam aspect. So we
Mm-hmm.
have to look at what generation are they unfolding in front of us, and why is the color vibration a darker to a darker? Like if one was white, one was a dark gray. So we're talking about, is it the skin, is it the bones of the body, or is it the bones all together and then it's a darker tone of the bones? Because the bones can go to a darker tone, couldn't it?
Yeah.
The moon, what I mean, has different phases. It's not always bright. It could be a darker bright. And that's what we're like learning. Because when it was talking about it, it was like, then they had an eclipse happen. I said, look at, they're doing an eclipse here too. They're doing the world spin fast and quick. And I was like, yo, they doing this
Yes.
overnight. They doing this overnight. And when the word is
Mm-hmm.
night, right? All
Right.
right. So the idea is just like caught up in the riddle, right? They say,
Mm-hmm.
one night, a king and a queen went into the castle. Out came three. The next day, what happened? That's a question.
They had a baby.
See, people always say that. All right, let's
Okay.
look at it again.
Same
One
here.
one night, a king and a queen went in the castle. Out came three the next day.
Mm-hmm.
You hear what I'm saying? I'm gonna say it one more
Oh,
time.
the knight, the king,
Okay.
and the queen.
Okay. There we
Yeah.
go. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So night,
I have to
night.
slow down, like you tell me.
Yeah. Come on. You gotta know it's not just the whole sword, it's the tip of the spear, the sword, all the way to going all the way to where your hand at.
Yes.
And they say your hand, your fingers is just like a sword.
Yes.
So if you know how to use it, like Bruce Lee showed you, if you know how to use it, you got some strength in that little mighty finger. That's why they don't want you to point. Don't be pointing at me. But your point is the angle, and your point is an angle like the angels. So what they did in there, they showed you a lot of the angles into the movie as a series, giving you Tawet, or Tarouet, um, giving you Kepara. The actual Kepara is the connection to Kansu. If you look at it, it was why they had the scarab beetle. And that's why they kept using it for what? Directions, right? All right, so hold on one second.
Okay.
They were giving you directions. All right, so I wrote it down, right? You got north, right, as going up, south going down, you know, west and east, you know what I mean? You got the compass, but it's in a square, it's in a box. Now, if you had two boxes, it would be a different type of box, right? And this different type of box would be Sobek. And that's why Sobek was put in there. So they were showing you, you got life in the square and you got death in the other square, but it's an X. So you got one is an X or a plus sign, and the other one is an X sign, galactic and Coptic. So you got 4 and 8 always intermixing on us. So because we run into 4 and 8 is as that infinity going back and forth and so in reverse. All right. So you're walking into your own energy all the time. So you're an 8 in 2 times itself, which is 16. And then you got 9 inches of that energy, like as far as going out 9 inches from your realms, 9 uh, units, which makes it a point where you can always become an infinite magic box of yourself when you're into whatever you need to do. So when you bring up energy, bring your energies into your fingers over at the bottom of your body and bring it up. When they were showing you all the moves, you got to not just look at the series, look at how they were moving in those movements. They were showing you different movements. Like when Kansu was with uh, um, the brother and doing moves. So he said you got to like do these flows when the world was spinning fast. He had to move in a movement. It was like Tai Chi. So we were seeing that's what they're putting. And yeah, and so if you look at the Netflix current adult scenes that they're putting out, there's different avenues that they're kicking into you. Now, of course, you got to be mindful though, because this is where the sex magic works at. So there's a point of you got to learn: are you on a self-defense mechanism? Because if you're not, this stuff you're giving to your children is also affecting you, just like they're affecting you. So now you got to be mindful of: are they showing you stuff that's for you or against you while you're watching it? And that's where this basically like Moon Knight, he had to learn the difference in: are you doing good things or you doing bad things while you're saying you're doing good things? And they had to learn that. He had to learn it himself. He said, "No, I ain't doing bad things." And then he was like, "Wait a minute, I am doing bad. Oh shoot!" And then what was the most profound thing is he was crossing into himself the whole entire time. So it was like you might not know who you are. And that takes time, right? And it goes by your senses. You got your eyes, your ears, your nose, and your mouth, your 4 senses. So as he was learning his senses, you got to look at how he was doing it. He like faded out, came back, and like, what the? And then he faded back out again. He faded back in, and then I was like, look at what he's doing. And it reminded me of myself. It's through the Dionysus, right? It's through the Dionysus stage. You have 3 realms. And in those 3 realms, those are where your angels are at. And there's different types of angels. Now, of course, they didn't tell you this. So they only gave you the 7 angels. You know what I mean? And so they didn't say, oh, you could go further than this. And we were like, oh, okay, I'll just leave it at this. And say, well, God is the only person I listen to, and And he was like, well, what about the angels that helping you, not helping you? Helping you, not helping you? All right, okay. Let's let you keep on going. All right, so now let's get into this. Because I know most people didn't know about this. I didn't either until just like something profoundly hit me in the head just as I was writing down stuff. I'm like, dang, there's some stuff out here that we really, really, really can tap into. All right, so as the angels, right? Most people know. Let me ask you, what angels do you know? Like, what type of angels? You still there? No? Oh, okay. Well, I'm gonna just keep on going then. All right. So I'm gonna say like this: if you think about what angels we're working with, hold on, Dion, get out the way. Get out the way. All right. Cool. All right. So there's usually archangels, which we think about, and angels. So what was thought about was you had an archangel that was the highest, and then the lowest was the angels. As in saying in reverse, because they're saying the archangel, somebody was against them. But then it was like, that's the one that fell. And I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. But then I was like, wait a minute, nah, something missing. Where's all these other angels? So you go into the angel is 1, archangel is 2, your principalities is 3. See how we didn't think of angels being these things? I didn't either. So it's a thought of when I've been talking about it the whole time. I was like, why am I okay? Let's keep going. The principalities is 3, the powers is 4, the virtues is 5. Your dominion or your domination is 6. Your thrones, like the Game of Thrones, is 7, right? All right. And your cherubim is 8. That's why the 8 Sobek was that one that, life or death, and it was waved off the scales. And you hear in the thrones represents through the ones. And so when you're doing that, just like Spider-Man is the 8. So you got the moon. Moon is in a representation of when we go to 8 represents Scorpio. And we're talking about how life or death. And so when, as a vulture, or, even for birds, they couldn't really say, oh, I'm going to show this bird, because it's a comic book. So they couldn't go real gory like they did back in the day. And then when I was watching it from that standpoint of view, looking through the comic, I didn't really like Moonlight. I didn't. I did not like him, because he was like Batman. And if you look at Batman, they showed Batman like a vampire. And we wouldn't know that. So if you look at all the levels of where they was going with it, it made it a point where, is this a good guy or a bad guy? And so there was always these choices. And so this is the part of why did I give you all of them anyway? Is because when they talk about the cherubim, which is the seraphim, how you connect to it, it's been a point where the Dionysus was explained. And so they put it from Pluto, which is the Platonic way of the ideas of what we call a demiurge. And in this demiurge, this is where we get, people like Aristotle, that whole crew that talks about the Renaissance and the Rosicrucians, and how the Rosicrucians got it from the Renaissance, how that all the diagnostic thoughts of where we're coming from. We want, like, I need a knowing of my diaspora. Where is this coming from? But we talking about the Gnostic people. So they became the Nagas. And so the Nagas is also the Negas. And then when we think about the Negas, this is where we get Jegna. The Jegna is one who still gave the griot the storyline. So they give you a story just like a DJ, the djembe. All this off the drums. They all gave a folklore of the pattern, the lessons that was learned, the patent earned thoughts. The pat is pet. Pet is the actual Petra. We're connected to the connection of signs. Like they're showing you symbolically, look at him. He has the but now he was using it for terrorizing people, hitting people in the head. And I was like, what was he? That's not what the And so you can see, like I said at the beginning, it's a point of they wanted to use it for a negative, yet didn't show it how it could have been a positive, because it was a positive to themselves, not into optimistic, which is ourselves. And so when we look at that, I'm gonna do two more things. The Nefertari, or the actual connection to our symbolic head or the cone, was just like how a bird's beak aspect could have been as well. When we think of peak, the mind of left and right. So when they were showing you the glyphs was an explanation to your science. And we knew science by conscience. And so there was 3 realms in that conscience. Yet out of the 3 realms is your body, your solar, your stellar, your solar, and your lunar. So when you look at how he went into the suit right there, you can see that he was supposed to be coming into now the form of not being the structure like that one, the first one, where he got basically the head covering and he's in his dart. Usually when we use our dart, it's so that not everybody's getting in tune with your energy, because it's a point of not getting so much energy, because you can give out a lot of energy. And the same with the moon, gave out a lot of energy. When you hear the word moon, you also hear the word noon backwards. So when you hear noon, it's another way of hearing numbers or numbers, and numb. And so we get numb. When the sun hits you, you feel great. But when the moon is out there, you get a little numb. You're like, oh, shoot, my hand is freezing up. Like now you feel what cold feels like. Now you feel what, the energy of hold and cold together. It's your skin. Everything's connected to your skin. So your skin is 7 layers to it. It's not 3. But they told you 3 so that you get stuck with that kind of thought. Yet they taught you rainbow, and how you rain your bow is in your energy. So when you rain your bow out, that's energy. When you rain your bow in, that's still energy. It's just inert energy. And when you inert it so much, you end up, doing this. And now when you're like this so much, you don't feel the expansion of your heat, but you feel it conserves heat. And now you feel more, reserved heat, preserved heat. And this is what we'll do when we're in a cave, or when we're, in that mind mentality. And so as the child that he found out, he was playing as an adult, he realized he had some child work he had to do. And this was the change of his order from his second lowest, which we were just explaining, from archangel, because we think we're the archangel. We start, well, I got to build somebody in character for myself, so I'm gonna let nobody beat me up, knocking me down. If somebody hit me, I'm gonna punch him in the face. And so this was the illustration of this moon night. And I was like, wait a minute, this ain't the same. And I was like, wait, now I got to research. And so when you watch stuff like this, don't let it slip by you like that. It's like a catch and a cold. You know what I mean? You catching the cold, but you know what cold is. You can go beyond that. You can go into heat. Like right now, I could be chilly, and I can also have heat. You know, and I can actually reserve that heat, and I can preserve my heat. And when you know when the moon is out, there's certain times. See, these are the certain phases that when that moon come up, there's times you got to preserve it and conserve it. And those are the points of how you now can reserve energy. This is where you got, what is it saying? The moon is what's the, I can't really see it.
It says the current
Aries.
moon is in Aries. Yeah.
All right. So now this is a great way of you learning how it's not just 9, it's 12, right? It's 12 meridians in the body. And in that, there's 3 days, 2.5 days basically, but 3 days of you changing those realms into the Aries was showing you the body parts that you're into from a head point of view, from your eyes, you know what I mean? And then there's a lot of the inside that it was explaining to you. So when you're into that moon and you're not knowing, you say, oh, well, it's a moon, it's not helping me. And you're like, what? Better get some help off of that moon. There's some ways to find out where the moon is giving you information, and it's profound information. It's profound information, and you'll find out that that's how you'll say, okay, now I know what's life projection. Because when Kansu popped up on him, it was times that he was speaking, but then I was listening to him. I was like, wait a minute, he sound immature. I was like, no deities sound immature like that. Yet it was because he's explaining for those body parts. We don't know that when we're like our spleen is hurting or our eyes are hurting, we'll have to do certain things to explain. Like my throat was just going to like a itching. Yet it's letting me know your chakras starting to go a little weak right here. Work on some water. And if you get a chance, put crystals into your water. Don't let the water just be one thing you drink. Add your crystals to your water. You got to take some crystals and put it in there. It's not gonna hurt the crystals. The crystals been here for you. So you eat sugar, you eat salt. And these are forms of what we say minerals. And so while the bone, as you saw with Kansu was showing you an older version of Kansu. And when you see Kansu on the walls, that was that deity you saw. So you're looking at a man, right, that has 3 forms, and they took that 3 forms and made a 2-form man in the real actual form of a man. So now we're not looking at the man that got the story, yet he does have the story. He's telling a story within himself. At the same time, for some reason, while he was doing all this missionary stuff at a young age, because he felt like he had to put this cloak on himself, like Cloak and Dagger, he had to fight through mercenary, whatever, you know, to get his rights of who he is as the dominant man, as this masculine energy, you know. And then there was this other side, his so politeful self that, you know, he had to be on another level. And so that was his left and his right. And this is what we think about the brain. When I was showing you this, Nefertari, she has that on the head. When you look at this on the head, there's more to it what's in the head versus what you see as a hat on the head. So it wasn't a hat in aspect. It's more like a het, H-E-T. And when we say these words, it's also H-U-T. When we say the word, we're like tuh backwards. So the Tahuti is another connection to Nefertari. Nefer or Neter is nature. So when we look at Neb Nature, there you go. Neb Nature shows you how we can now speak a different tone to ourselves, and we can find out how you can roll your tongue to make those what you were just showing on the brain, those energies open up And now you in your left and your right, like the Sankofa, the left and your right. You're going into the front and the back, not just a going inside thing. When we say we cross the road, you don't cross just two sides. You cross a four, and you create a four because you're in the center of it once you get in the middle of it. That's how you know it wasn't a duality ever. It was a duality when you thought it was man and woman. Yet that's not man and woman fighting each other. This is explanation that we're doing to explain to each other, and that's the walls, which is law, the wall that is in a put up in front of us, and we don't come into the further. Let's just either climb over it, knock it down. There's certain ways that people do it. So you sit into things, right? You lie into things, and you stand up in things. And so what this brother had to do, he had to learn not to just split himself all the time, not to just become, well, I'm gonna blank out and I'm gonna just fight this person, do whatever I want to do, and then act like I ain't do nothing. What happened? I don't know what happened. Man, I needed, man, somebody tore this person. All right, I'm out. And we do that a lot. We don't realize. And you're like, wait a minute, did I just destroy this? Yeah, you just destroyed this person. And so that would explain this one here. And you know, when you think of it, we thought, at least for a long time, me, myself personally, I thought it was a man's face. That's not supposed to be a man's face. And if it is, it was distorted for us as a man. It was a woman's face. And because we didn't know Sakara, here the roll of the tongue, the Sakara represents, just like the Cheops that you were just seeing, the pyramids, there's more than three, you know, and they're showing you that only because that's the basic that people want us to know about. They don't want us to know the full. If you knew the full then you won't need me. And then forever it is, I want you always need me. So it's like, why do we think of that? Why do we think that we have to have a needing aspect? We're not that need. We're not in that need. We're in a different need where we sow it, where we seesaw it. As we seesaw it, that's the balance. And that's when it became off balance. That's why the Ma'ai was explained. This is why they had to come into the cat form. The cat is also the AKT, the act. And so the act, just like you get from arch degree, KT to arch degree, he was explaining how you get solid, liquid, gas. You have an etheric body. And so your skin, that streamline from your skin is melanin. And the more it taps into, and when you eat amino acid, it's not the different type. So when we go into psychic defense, this psychic defense is another way to explain why you need to go vegetarian. I didn't think it was gonna go there. I'm still reading. I was like, man, they must got some profound stuff. I'm gonna find I'm finding the same thing I'm already doing. Oh, so I just got to keep sharpening my skills. Yeah, that's it. You find out that the gorilla himself, strongest on the planet, ate on a vegetarian type level. And then they put King Kong out and they said, what, the King Kong eating a bunch of fish on a ship? Man, y'all got to be kidding me. And then there was another joint I was watching, Flash, and they had a banana, and there's this intelligent now gorilla. And he's like, or Gore don't eat bananas and smack the drink. I was like, come on, people. They're showing us that we should be now out of nature more than nature's showing us, and that we're not connected to nature because we're eating nature. And they're giving you this big old bird's face. And I was like, yo, why did it give us as Kansu? And then I had to look, and that's why I had to go into this research. I had to make sense. It had to make sense to me. And when you go like my brother Duca Tears, he breaks a lot of the information down from the comic books. I love that brother for what he did and what he's still doing. And that's like another reason why I feel like in community, some things you look at it that you want to get money for, and then there's some things it ain't even worth the money. It's worth to get that knowledge out there for our people, so that once we get the information, we can move further from that. So like this, I got 5 different heroes that I just looked up not too long ago on Google, and it's those that they were speaking of our comedic energy. One is Green Lantern. Green Lantern. He got the actual Shin, Shen. That's the first part of the When you think of Shin or Sink, Senk, Sink, this or Senkh, Sink. It's a new form to the thoughts. Yeah, it's an old form. It's always been there. The Shin to Shinron to Shinu, Shiranu, she. That's the whole connection to he and her. The masculine, the circle and the line. That's the whole idea where the 0 and the 1 was put in the computer. So when they used that was the green light or the green lantern energy. Most of us, like when we get near like this, you see the whatever type of light near us, what color does it reflect near you? When you're like water, remember when water shoots out, the sun hits you, or the sun is like coming in your building, what rainbow? Is it a rainbow? Is it one color? You might be of that chakra zone. And that'll explain how you didn't know that. Things are like really fast. And me doing that just like that in front of you and the camera catching it is not as fast as I just did it in front of me. So there is repeated duels in our relationship. And that's why it feels like it's a struggle. This is why the moon night was representative Mona. The cape represents the feminine. That's why we get these great information, so we can still keep the line as an alignment. There was 9 orders to your highest to your lowest form. All right. So when we're looking at the study of angels, I'm gonna go again with it. It was a cherubim being at the top, as some people stopped at. Yet it was the seraphim that was at the top, which is the 9th form. When they said cherubim, that's where you get Chaldeans. When you hear Chaldeans, they said, let's use the language in an 8th form, right? So 8th form, just like platform, is just like the word stop or stoppa. When you hear the word stoppa, you also hear the word tapa or tops. Stop, tops. The word is in reverse. Now pots, pata. You're saying the path. The path is father. So Kepara represents a fatherly energy. So that's why you had the actual beetle that carries the dung, but it's not the actual father. It's the mother that carried the dung. So this is how we get a misconstrued of the story. And we're like, wait a minute, what am I confused? Why they never showed the woman yet? And then when you finally get to the woman, they give you ma'at. I was like, oh, or they're giving you aset without telling you. I was like, okay, that's a little, all right. They confused the crap out of me with that one. It's all right. And then I saw the hippo and I said, oh, they got hippo here. And then that's Tarawet. I was like, oh, okay. So the crocodile Sobek, you got the balance, and the bird, you might as well say he was the balance right there to start you off with the judgment. And yet you wouldn't see it because he was already explaining in emotions. And we look at emotions is connected to our senses, right? And so just like to say the 4-way, it's a fire, your earth, your air, your rain. When you're in your fire, your earth, your air, your rain, you say, why are you talking about elements? I'm talking about that north, the east, the west, and the south. These are explanations to your 4 realms. And each time you do it, you got, like, let's say from north, you got a northwest, right? And then you're going from west. You got a west, east, just like you got a west, east and an east south. And then you got a east south to the being south, and then a south being north south, and then north. So when you're going into your 4, there's an in between that 4, and that's how you find out a window from a door. You open the door, right? That's a 0. I'm gonna put my hand over it. That's a 0 turning and a 1. You opening it. So this has always been a new shin to yourself. All right, because I was skipping around. Green Lantern is the shin. Moon Knight, they also put out there. They also got, which we now know, is which I was giving you the connection to the That's the Trinity. So they gave you the They already gave you the Shin. They gave you the They also gave you Apocalypse, and that was the placement of where Kemet is at. So now we're hearing how they actually giving you different forms, not telling you where they at, yet you getting the pieces, right? Okay, so then you got Dr. Fate, and I don't know when they're gonna come up with him, but he's the one that got our and he's been rocking for the longest. I was like, oh man, I ain't even think about this. And then they got Black Adam. Now, you already know they had Black Adam out since 2019, so we really kind of like behind it, seeing it. They just like, I don't know what they're doing with that. And I was like, man, I knew I was thinking about it. I was like, where that at? Yeah, I ain't seen it yet. So they holding it down, and its placement, they're doing it through the moon cycles. You got 28 and a half day where the moon cycle changes. And when that happens, it's through phases. So what we're doing, going through Scorpio again. And so why Scorpio? That's why they can put this out. And they can put that right on the energy of Scorpio. It'll fit right on in, because this explains not only the 12 zodiacs that we have, you know what I mean, the fire, the earth, the air, and the rain as your fear, your fire, your earth, your air, and your rain as your fear, first section. And then the second section, your fire, your earth, your air that goes into the, and then come back up, back and front to now to the rain where you, release. And now again, the fire in your hips to the earth in your kneecaps, and your air, which is your ankles, and your rain of your feet now. So now you let all of that out and release. That's why it's good to put your feet on the ground. Now, of course, different at night when the moon is up, it'll drain you. So there's a different way of doing it. You got to do it when the sun is out. So that's why there's a difference of you learning moon being like the wolf. Wolf, W-O-L-F, is flow. So flip it backwards. And that's what Seven Bomar, he broke some of those words down for me. I'm going to say also Mr. Astrology, he broke some things down. Even Brother Sanchez, he'd be funny. He got his own way of speaking. We all got our ways of speaking. Rod Hayes, he breaks it down too. He got his ways of speaking. Yet we all have our nature that when we speak out of, it's like the S with a peaker. It's a speaker, but an S with a peak. It's a higher spot versus I'm just peeking, looking over and what y'all got? You know what I mean? You got Robin and you got Batman. Batman was really the Ma'at man. And so when you hear that from Brother Sanchez, he broke that down. I was like, yo, that was great. You think about the middle of the boat, you know what I mean? The womb and how that's connected. And see this right here, he was showing you an X. See how we change the phonetic words? It's not me that's doing it. Everybody's doing it. They write words like B-A, B-E-A, you know, he said B-A. This is our language. Escape. He wrote this word down. And then look at him. He's like going past the moon now. He was moonwalker at first. Y'all forget. He was a smooth criminal. But he was knowing the crime in all, not just being a criminal. That's what makes this, you got to be more in tune with your karmic debt. You know what I mean? So you know your karmic destiny. It'll help you. And for you to have this as a dynasty, come on. Let's go. All I can see is divinity. All I can see is divinity. When Daniel, King Nebuchadnezzar, when he found out about Daniel eating vegetarian, he was like, dang, that's the best way to be fighting my enemies. And it wasn't his enemies. It was himself in his enemy way of thinking. Because when we're playing those parts, just like Kansu in the series, you find out Kansu get kicked out from the group. I said, hey, Kansu get kicked out from this is different. They put a whole other level to our emotions. And when we say fear is crossing into them. And so when we learn to cross can be in different ways. So if it was explained in one way, it could sound like sacrifice. If it's explained in another way, it could sound like worship. And if it's explained the right, as in profound aspect, as in not just right, also left, you can connect, yes, to the turtle island aspect. And now you can see what Trinity is. It's called honors. Now, we said the word honors, H-O, it also sound like Han. Now, if you said O-N-N, and then O-R-E, or. The or is your energy, honor. Now, honor, that's the energy. That's how this right here, the actual Han Aken, which they call the Sphinx. The Sphinx is the sphincters in your body, and it's connected by 3 realms. That's why the pyramid at the top is your head. And when Rod Hayes threw out the picture, I was like, see, they gave it a masculine form. But if you notice that it's a strong feminine still, if we didn't notice. So when Woman King came out, don't take just all the negative, go into what you can grasp of the positive, and then use that too. Because when we're looking at the negative resource, that's the only thing it's going to do is hurt you. Well, if you looked at it though, and you got some hurts out of it, you're like, oh shoot, that was some good energy I got though. And so you see the snake head is a part of this. The snake is just like the locks, you know what I mean? And so we're never away from this, just that they put it in as a predator and thinking that we were predator eaters. So one that ate from the bird's eye view all the way on down. That's why the actual showing that the bird was dead already was like, why did they give you a dead bird skull as moonlight? I said, okay, now I see what's going on here. When they gave it to us in the comic book, they didn't give us the comedic side to it. They gave us something that they knew they got from somewhere. They just didn't want to put it all the way from where it was at. So if you really look at Moon Knight, his head shape looks like either a snake or King Tut. And you're like, oh, that's what they did. And then there's the Ankh. The Ankh represents what Anpu holded on to. And Anpu, to the people in the Greek terminology, is known as Anubis. And that's who was the actual helper or the devourer of the death, or, you know, meat. And that's why K9 is the dog. Dog represents God backwards. So if you go into yourself forward, because that's what the going back into self is like, tapping back into yourself. You're going back into the to the circle. It's deep how I got to move the other opposite way. Yeah, this is how we are. We're in reflection. We're in reflection of each other. So water is an explanation to what water does. Like, I'm explaining this to you. However, it got to soak. It got to not just sit on you. You got to soak into you. You know what I mean? And when you think of Superman, Superman was one who came from the head on down. So he was like, I'm super. I'm an S with the upper energy. So when I come down, this was like what most people thought as an archangel. And that's how I got changed when he was really a seraphim. He just didn't know it himself because it was in the part that he had to fight. This person right here is Doom. But Doom is what? In reverse. Can you reverse those letters? What you get?
Mood.
So your mood messes up your super energy. And so now it's your fear that you're facing. You won't face nobody but himself. And he didn't know the realms of it because there's 9 of them. Yeah, he was like, you know, I'm indestructible. I'm just going to do the same thing he did. Yeah, he outweighed himself. And that's how he ended up being self-destructive towards the fight. When you fight, first thing you fight is who?
Your enemy.
No, you fight yourself. And
So,
you said it.
okay.
You said it all right. You did say it though. Enemy.
Enemy.
I'm fighting enemy.
It's switch yourself.
And then you're like, wait a minute, did my emotions change? Yeah, you allow your changing to come in. And so when we look at change, it's CH and ang, anger. Anything connected to the is the dog form right in the beginning. So you could dog somebody out. You could dog your mama out. Yeah, this B, blah, blah, blah. This MF, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And you wouldn't even know nature also listening to you. Like the plants are affected by energy. You say, bad dog, bad dog. You say, good dog, good dog. The dog don't know what you just said. They know there's a tone to what you're saying. Yes. And when you see these words, this is why it goes back to the old, the woo, and the woo being the wooden, the gooden. The good is Greek terminology, goth, from the goth to the gothic. That's how we've been speaking with gossip and ghost words. So wood to wooden. And that's why it became world or wid, like Wednesday. When Wednesday came up, that was the day of the Odin energy. But you're in a den energy. So that's like a dense energy if you don't see it. And it's also a new energy. If you know a new energy is ANU, that's where you come into a new den, a new den. And now Eden, you say Eden from Aladdin, all den, Aladdin is La, land. We're on new land all the time. We're in this turtle island from an Island energy. It's IS and LAND. Look at this word. Now he put BID. You put a bid in. And that's what he was speaking on about how we get so much into that part of the spell. There's the duality where we got to start. Ooh, let me slow it down. Pause for a second. I got to have some kind of psychic defense here. And let people know that not only your psychic defense is not for you, it's for people that's around you. You don't want these people to still go into the same mind, control level. And yet we're not getting where we need to get to. When do all the heroes can take off the mask and they can still be a hero? That's what's going on. Every time a hero come out, he can't talk to this woman. He can't do nothing because he got to either be a hero or just, not be one. He's like, man, I got to give up my hero side if I do it. And this is what we look at in conception. Conception is birth, right? But through conception, you have inception. How'd you get here? Right? Now, I'm going to give you all of these, and then we're going to go back to why I'm saying all this. All right. So from conception to inception. Now, I didn't get this from anybody. I just was going in, and I just found it. Sometimes you end up doing that too. You get a lot of your energy so much on the collective, you're like, okay, and here it is, the inception. The movie, watch that. You'll get great confound what I'm saying. All right, so inception, that's where you see, dang, how did I get here? When did this happen? Did it start? Whatever. And so now perception, that's already 3 ways and waves, because you get them like waves, in how you perceiving energy, right? And then there's deception, the deception of what now it's a box, but the box is still a circle, still a triangle, but it's 3 of them you got to have. So 720, you'll see yourself out of there, out of the 360, because it's 361. Reception, how do you get a 5 point? Most people look at the 5 point as a star, the lion, and that's how the lion really does connect to himself. And so I went from 1 to now 5, and 5 now to 6. Interception, Hail Mary. I know we say Hail Mary, or you got this little cheers thing. If you really knew it, for all y'all that have been cheering and taking a drink and cheering with people, that ain't your language. That's somebody else's. You didn't even know that. Y'all just cheering with these people. Yeah, cheers, ching. Congratulations, ching. To a great wedding, ching. All this ritual, ching. You know what I mean? And they don't even know it. Just clean the glass together, ching. Those are crystals, right? Don't matter. Ching. We're not going with our culture so much that now it's a cult that we do. And there's this 2 sides that we end up having. One is Solomon and one is an occult. So that we wouldn't know that, right? I mean, that's why we have to see where's your reciprocity when you're going into your interception. All right. But you ain't going to see reciprocity yet till you get a interception. You got to go into yourself. So that's from 1, conception, 2, inception, 3, perception, 4, deception, 5, reception, 6, interception, 7, interception, because that's the snake. You got to get bit. Now that you got that bite, can you get an antidote from that bite? That's from the pain to the paint to I ain't. I ain't doing that no more about it. All right, so unk is all right there. It gets into exception, number 8. 8 is the ACC, because you got to have an exception of what you're gonna, because you went to interception. Now you go, okay, now I accept this energy. Man, I think I did wrong. I gotta learn my left from my right. Oh, it's not wrong. Okay, left and right. And you got to keep speaking to teacher. So now you know what to not accept. You went to the last one. The ninth is the exception. So you got, again, conception number 1, inception number 2, perception number 3, a deception for number 4. Because that could be your family. We get the elements of zodiac signs. That's how it usually starts. Everything kind of basically goes right back into the chart. We say Aries. So Aries is the I see it, right? So now that's why it became a conception. Yet, but when you came out to the I am, that's what the mantra represents. I have. And so now there's an inception to how it, oh, there's the Sheba. Sheba just walked by the window. There's the inception to how it formed. So it's the I have. That's what Taurus really represents. And then there's Gemini. Gemini represents the perception, how you see it as the Trinity, how you see it from mother, father, and the child of yourself. So that represents the I think. Now, most people say I think, and then they leave it there. It's not just that. It's not. It's I think and I thought. So now the way to break, I end up finding out how to break this down. 22 and the 1. 20 at 21 or 21 days, you find out that way too. Or 21 weeks, you'll find out that way too. This is a magical, mystical energy that we've been working with all this time. So when you got at 21, man, I'm out of here. I'm doing this, man, I'm whatever, you know. And 21 seconds, you might be, man, forget this, it's too long. 15 usually on average. So we'll look at how do we get past that? How do we go into a further, I can meditate in these realms. All right. So 21, now you can master these numbers. Why is it that? Because I'm talking about Aries, the head. I'm talking about Taurus, the throat. I'm talking about Gemini, the neurological system, your nervous system. How you're running back and forth. That's the connection. Now, if I get into 4, this is where Moon Knight comes into. Moon Knight represents that skin that you're in. You got this whole layer, one big organ on your body. And I had to learn this because I'm coming out of Capricorn energy and my son being a Cancer energy. Now, why would I have to know this? Is because during this season, this is what we're going into. We're learning the seasons changing, right? And in a 21 to 28 day cycle, something happens, right? Okay, and left. As 21 going into a new cycle, it shows you what is after 21. That's why you see transformation in the 3 days and the 3 realms and even the clock when it goes to 12, right? And then it goes to 1 and end up being 1,300 hours, which is 4. So someone or us mystically are not aware of how the moon night starts. Oh, you moonlighting. What does that mean? Did you know moony is money? The word moon in the energy, that is so important to get words that Monday, mundane are your words of our moon. You're using Amun, and then you say Amen. That's the same word. You just shorten it. You gave it it could be a weaker frame, a stronger frame. It depends, like I said, what we were doing with our exception and conception. I gave you the ways of doing it. So that way you can already work with whatever. And then I also said fire, earth, and air. That's connected right there. And the Most High gave you principles. Masculine and feminine. They didn't say male and female. Masculine and feminine part. So respect. Masculine and feminine. And the masculine and feminine is showing you out of these deities, there's a masculine and feminine principles. It doesn't say gender. If it did, it would say gender up here. That's not up here. And when you're seeing these energies, there's a collective that goes to your mind. Now, you have to say, okay, well, at what point am I speaking that is still going to resonate with me? You'll find that out for yourself. Because when you go into your research, it's called R-E, right? That's R-E by itself, meaning it's a deity. And we wouldn't know that from Ra. Ra means to manifest. Ray means to stay being inside. Or we say Amen, not knowing that's still the inside. Amen into the Ray. You see now all those that are depictments that they took and partially gave you what you need to know. So now that can at least help you further your research to go further. Not to say you're going to be done when you start searching, because that's what you're connecting to, the read, the RE energy. When we say rare, is RA with a RE. So we're putting the masculine and feminine principles back to itself. It's just sad that we have it and we're not using it. And we say we want to get rid of it already. I don't know how many movies you ever hear, just like in this one, it's the same dogmatic. Once you got the superhero ability, you say, nah, you ain't do this no more. Like, how the what? You got the oh, because they're surrogates. They're not the true avatar. A true avatar would say, I don't mind doing this because this what fuels me up. When you're a refueler, you're not a refueler. You ain't gonna go by to keep being refueled by thoughts. You refuel the L. Not an F-U to L. And we start to end up doing that to our mind because it's the Taurus that we're fighting. It's a bull thing. It's the bully thing. You know, somebody's a bully. You don't like bullies. I don't like bullies. Nobody who likes bullies, you know. Yet talk to a bully and he say a bully like bullies. Because why? Because he wants to fight the bully. Like, what? Are you the bully in you? You doing that? So we'll find out the why is really an I. The why, it's an I. It's the Trinity. It's the first missing piece. And so when you get from the constellation of the Cancer, which is that 4, fire, earth, air, and the rain, when you get to Cancer, that's like saying your mother, your father, your child, now family. How do you know that when mother and the child together is family first? That's why it was principles. It wasn't gender. And we said, oh, since it's a child, we're going to say it's a man. It's a boy. Yeah, it's a boy. Yeah, it's a boy. And we took away from her twin energy. This is why mom can talk to her daughter and they say girl to each other. Not this moment. This is why we find out that when we're put in principles of what hurts us, we'll find out that the imparity comes off of how we thought of that boy can be also now a girl, right? And destroy that manhood on that connection, that principle. And when we look at, we don't give each other boundaries as much as space to each other. And that's where the nurture and the nature was missing. And you could see it in this movie, in this series, which had me cry. I had to go into a moment. I was like, oh, that brother's me right now. Because, you know, you got to get macho for a certain point. You might got to get macho for the job, you know, because when he got into the job, you know, he was doing his thing. He ain't want to bother nobody. And then this woman's like, that's not what you talking about. You get to work, you know, and just was snappy at him. She was never happy. You know what I mean? And you run into these people all the time. These are what we call the bullies. And it's the bull. They're in their second chakra. And so they're not knowing what they have. And so they'll be speaking that non-having aspect all the time. And you're like, oh, that's one of them. So now you got to figure out how to finagle around and maybe give them a donut. So I don't know. Just throw something at them. It's just like a little frisbee. It's like, it ain't a frisbee. But in the way it is, it's more like the way of bringing in, yes, as the yogi aspect, how do you help those that don't know how to feed themselves? You know what I mean? And just like when we think about yogis had a new way of speaking to you. And so that's the guru. You say G-U and R-U. See, G-U, R-U, G-U, R-U. It makes sense where the word yogi, yoga, and, you know, Yogi Bear, right? We get Yogi Bear and the same connection for Yogi Bear to Scooby-Doo. All those are from the constellation of the sun, the moon. We have constellation of Anubis as the pointing dog star aspect. So when we look at this being the 3-realm aspect from the sun, also from the moon, we have what God instinct gives us, like right there. I didn't have to make that up. It's all given to us in a constellational wake-up call. The coyote, the wolf, the jaguar, all of them have a mystical way of they approach in front of us as totems. And I'm quite sure you see them. You know what I mean? It's not a day don't go by. Some kind of totem went right by you. And because of that, we'll go by it in a shameful way, that where like the whole God concept. I'm saying, Adam, where are you? Adam had to look for, I mean, God had to look for Adam. Like God created everything, he had to look for Adam. And so, yes, this is the actual connection to where you see the color variations are the showing of these were chakras, these were not clothing. And so the long gown, the whole connection to where we see from the man who had to wear the suit, and now he's fully like still masked up. It looked like the mummy. They was giving you the mummy. That's where mummy, all that plays in the same. So we say Amun represents the bull aspect, but who passed away bull. So when we saw the passed away bull, it was one who had the horns and he had a sun on the head. That was like basically he saw light and it went into dark. And so there's different ways that when you look at, and yes, the Amos is the connection to that. So when you were saying the feminine has a masculine ability, that's where the Harry Potter, the Khonsu, we hear Khonsu, we got Khnum. Khnum is the Harry Potter who basically made a Harry Potter's will, and there was a way to make life back into itself. So just say from death to life, here's one who saw the death of things and was able to give it back to life. And so as Mut, as mother, there's also Amun. Amun represents the opposition to mother, which was the feminine and the masculine. And that's why you saw the idea of moon night with this ability. And so you see men, Amun, and men is the connection from his head of enlightenment. And to see there's a higher level from the dynasties. There is known as each realm has a dynasty in our mind. So you have different units out of each block, you know, that comes off the pyramid. You have each units, just like your finger has each units of how you, melanated, is created that solid liquid gas to become alchemy. There's an easy line as that square that you look at from the pyramid, it changes. And so like Mut, turn the word around, you got Tun. When you turn the word around from Nu, you got Un. So when you undo things, when you made Mut a connection, you're putting your mother connection. When you untie something, it takes grace for that. It don't take time, it takes grace. So now you're crossing in when you create time. Time is emit. Emit is the crossway. So when the brother, he was like doing mercenary things, he had to realize he had to like give himself up, and not really give himself up. It was like allow all low energy, is what we look at the dog or the dead, all low energy to not be low yet rise. And so we get Aries. Aries is arise. And so our mind or our tune becomes erect. And so when we attune ourselves, we become erect. You got Atun Ray, but you also got Min. Min is your minutes. The minutes is the minute. Mine would nut energy. Me would nut energy. So when nut is a rainbow coming over like water, we get reflection. And how much into it is why they said shoe, from shoe, we got Tefnut, right? We got Geb and we got Nut making a connection. And when Geb and Nut make a connection, that's the mountain, right? And the rain or the air connected to the rain will be between that Nu and the shift, the Tefnut and the shoe. And so when we're in that mixture of crossing in, this will becomes this right here, the cherubim. And on the cherubim, or the Benu, is the connection to your cherubim, where you're getting all your realmic people in sections. And the realmic people is really your chakras, your meridians, your zodiac signs, your constellational connection to the galactic energy, not just here on this plane that we're on multiple planes. So that's why Kepara is one who's like one of all the suns, all the moving all the suns together. He's in the middle, just like you would put the hippopotamus in the middle, because it was like the key point to things, like your heart. Your heart is like a key point to learning your Leo energy. Now, your Leo energy is like what the sun does. When by the time is the sun up, you up. The sun go down, you down. Now, of course, if you work night, you'd be like, dang, all right, I got a moonlight. And now you got to become a moon knight. The moon knight is not just the night of Night Shriner. The moon knight is supposed to be the night of the nobility. Nobility as no bell, not no ball, no bell. No balls mean you ain't got none. No bell is no be the L. No, then be the L. No is knowledge. No is noses. Nose is the nose. Nose is the nostrils. Nose is not saying you stuck with the thrills of things. You're knowing both sides, the no and the nose. Like you say, there's no. And then you also say there's no's. Like, I already said it. I ain't gonna keep going over it again. Like you hear you know what mean. People want to act like you gotta have a different language. Your language has been the same, and everybody's aware of what your language is. And when you're building your language in that, you can see that this is why the villain was even created. He got to a point where his language was built into this other world that we live off of. And when you look into these worlds, you find out there's multiples of them. You know, the superhero character is the like Superman, one who's in the Aries head, but then came to the heart. When you think about him, he had a head and a heart. He didn't have the hips yet because he didn't have no child, nothing like that. Yet they probably more than likely gave it to him because it was like, he can't be running around here without having a child. So, and then they call him a god. But this is where we get demiurge from. The demiurge was a way to put Dionysus in front of us. Now, what I mean by Dionysus is like saying Janus Aries, February, and March. All of them are connected to Aries if you didn't hear it. February, Janus Aries. That's why they're giving you. They febbed you the fake of the connection to Aries already. The Janus to the, and when I mean they who came up with this calendar. It's a K-A. It's a calendar. It's a ka energy, spirit, creation to lend you. Now, if you don't know, it's because of the AR being an ER. We think people who paint is a painter, but people who paint don't know anything. It would just be a painter. They have to be an artist in that ability, not just a painter. We won't even just stay stuck in that. It's a reverse ER. When they say ER, it's an emergency. Don't you put ER in emergency? Okay. So if you reverse the word, it got to be a RE. You got to redo something. You got to refine this, refinance it, remortgage all this stuff. You know, remortgage is the death. So what is it then when you land in the bed and you be dead? You're not a dejed. A dejed is to be erect. Once you're in your erect form, that's your ability for meditation. So when you're in that state of mind that he went blank out form, that was really his point of saying he meditated. If you could look at it from not the trichonology, because when they're using our form, there's no way we're going to beat somebody up and then get back into who we are. Now, everything's okay. We're good at beating up people now. No, that's not how it works. This is fantasy. This part is the fantasy part. Now you can separate the meat from the bone and the bone from the skin. I don't want to use this as a reference, but this is what they keep using. And so you'll find out the Trinity is a reason why all this has to be important for you. Not just duality. You're going to always see something that you ain't going to like. Yet, there's a reason for that. Where's the elder at? Because if there's no elder, it's only an older person that's acting like how you saw Kansu do up there. He was like, something, y'all need to do something. And he was like, wait a minute now. That's not supposed to be the... They trying to show him as an old man. Oh, I get it. It's just, when people look at your story, they look at it from their point of view. So when they look at it from their point of view, they're going to see their perception on the other side. That's why the riddle was important. You know it from your family riddle, which is really you, your individual riddle, to your family riddle, to now you can give it to the world riddle. And that's the ability of your Trinity. Not this Trinity where you say you got to know your mother, your father, and your son. When you say your mother and your father and son, is not that. That doesn't make any sense. That's your family riddle. How do you know? Because it's your individual riddle. You didn't get it. But now you got to go out into the world and show it. How you know? How you know instead of believe? You got people being in the lie of Eve when there was a lion there, a lion with David. David supposed to have been dividing people, dividing them so much that he was put in the cave at 8. And when he went in there, he had to face this not from a bird perception, but from the den perception, Eden. And so from a bird, from its highest point of view to this here, what we call the serpent energy. You know that Haru, that's the whole connection to your hours. Hours is your time. And so when you got that Uatchit, that's that also what they call the serpent's rod. That's what we didn't know. The formation is changed. The ibis. The ibis is what you see at the top, or the ibis, they call it IBIS, is on the left, along with the Ankh on the right. And then you see another one, another ibis on another right. So you got two types, two forms, and they got rods at the bottom that can stick into the earth, which we can go further, and I ain't gonna tell y'all all that stuff, but you know, it gave it to a point where we knew what we were looking at. And you're like, oh, whoa. And it's not like, oh, this is demonology. Well, demotech is what people are using. Demotech, this language is demonic. So if you're saying you're doing demon stuff, you're already doing that. You're not uplifting anything when you say it. That's why it's called demon. Demonstration. Why don't you give me a demonstration? You demonic, somebody. So demanding you are. See, it's about the definition and definitions. So if there was Peru, per and you, a cat, how do you know what you act when you say action? If you're not a cat, you got a cat that got 9 lives. No, you don't. You got infinite lives. And that's where the eternal life came from, the Ankh. We saw the Ankh at the Sematawi. So the Sematawi or the Sematawi was a different name for people. And then not only did it have an origin to it, it had a Twa as people. So the shortest, smallest of people to the biggest of a Nephilim, of biggest people. There was forms of that where you get realms of that. And so just like this life you look out at, you're on mostly green. That's why they had to put it out there with Green Lantern and give you the first part, the shin, and not tell you too much, but it's through your imagination. The more you eat it, the better you get at it. The worse you don't, the more suffering that end up happening. And when you find out those things make it to, to that, you see that that's why they had Maya and the 3 come out. And if you look at Maya and the 3, please check that joint out on Netflix. That's what I meant by those 10 cartoons they were showing like an adult level, not the adult. I'm talking about like giving you the science. This one here, Mesoamerica, they're giving you the whole connection to how you have a Thunderbird. The Thunderbird is the other connection. Like if you don't know about that, that was Rod Hayes. He broke some of that down. Now, of course, with my connection, I look at it from the Olmecs, and so the Olmecs to the Thunderbird, the Quetzalcoatl. Why was he speaking about in a shuttle type, space shuttle type, when that's your ability? When you lay down, you're in a higher rapid, your eye rapid movement. They were showing a lot of that when you look at Moon Knight. They were showing you a lot of that transformational movement that was happening when he laid down. I was like, oh, look at that. He had to put the rope around his neck. I mean, his ankle. There's Aquarius right there in his air sign. So that's when you dream, you're into what? More of the why is this his lowest part of his body? Because that's the Capricorn kneecaps, 10, 11, and 12th house. He didn't put the rope on that part. So I'm like, okay, I see what you're doing. So he in the realm of the house down there with the rope. He's down and he forgets what happened, but he wakes up with his chain and he comes out and falls on the ground. This is the part of you knowing that when people say, oh, you got a split personality. No, this is the part where you time warp into this realm now. And now wake up. It's just like you get up and you say, oh, what time is it? Oh, shoot, I'm late. Oh man, I gotta go. And then you might not even take a shower. You're like, I mean, I gotta just burp back right quick. And so you're doing all these things and you get out the door, you leave, and you're like, I forgot my keys. Oh, I locked myself out. Oh man, I'm having a bad day. And so you'll create your own type of like a moon energy. A moon, there's different ways of looking at a moon, right? Symbolically, the word moon is a word, but it's also a sound, right? If you take away the N. right? Because the N, just like calendar, it's you still hear the word cow, but we don't hear it as we should. So even with the word hawk, it sounds like caw, hawk, caw. And I got those reverses when I start hearing all these beautiful brothers that be speaking on this stuff because it's about your word phonetics. How do you hear it and didn't hear it? So it's the reverberation that when we play music, like it hits the walls, there's the echo. And echo represents like technology. So as technology, it came back to us to now show how it can really comes into this revelation to us. Why do we express these things? You know, if your topic is off topic and then you find a way to get in tune to your topic, it's because it's not to pick anything. It's the showing you the depiction of it. And it's coming from different angles and perceptions. So when we heard the word mu or moon, we also hear Mu Xing. So Mu Xing Dynasty. When you see this, you're seeing the idea look like a phoenix bird. Now, when you think of the lion also represents a bird ability with the hair and with the eyes of perception. And then when the lion is out, the lion don't do hunting as you would think in the daytime, as you do mainly, do it at night, where the perception is a little different for those who already got some moonshine energy. Because he was out in the sun gazing, getting that sunlight. It's like, yeah, I'm catching all this sunlight. And they be out there and you're like, dang, this cat lazy. Nah, he thinking of what he about to do. Got some imagination. Or she. So when we talking about Daniel, Dan is DNA. That's why this is so important about how your letters are still in front of you or giving you another answer to yourself. The A-N-D, the D-A-N. So David had to become Daniel. When he went in at the age of 8, it's a metaphor to how we're speaking about riddles. So when he went in at the age of 8, he had to come out, which if he can come out, that'll be him being divine as 9 energy. You don't have to be at the age of 9. He can already have that stage before he get to 9. This is what makes us, dang, he jumped ahead. How do people do that? This is why, why you mess with that young girl? All of us are infinite people. We just got to find out how much do we have finite in us to, well, now we say, okay, that was my limitation right there. And you realize the sinus was taken to our senses and the us was taken off. And now you got sin. That was a sin messing with this person. No, that was a ness. You didn't see this because it was minus. It's a men energy. We're connected by men energy. Men represents that one who can become erect. Now, why did we become erect? Is because we knew about the cow, the divinely cow. And that's Het Haru. Het Haru or Hathor. Hathor would be one who knew how to give breast milk, which we were missing, oxytocin. And so we wanted nurture. We wanted nature. So why did the man, as the wolf or the dog, was howling at the moon? Howl is with the L. Howl. So who is also a deity connected to the L. So now how are you howling? Well, it's because of the low energy feeling, the vibration of root chakra. Now you want to get your root chakra up to your head. So when we see Superman with the S sign symbol, it's a diamond instead, but going downward. So when we think of man of steel, we're thinking a different type of steel in our mind. And so this is why you got to look at what is it that we're using? Our gold, is it steel or is it platinum? What is it that we're using outside the body as waste and inside the body is not waste when we put it in? This is the confusion that happened. And this is why Moon Knight as just a starting point. Anybody else could start in all the other comic books. I just felt like this one was more important for me to tap into because I created Eternal out of Eric Nathaniel Lewis. And I said E-N-L. And I said, oh, wow, profound. E-N-L, eternal. And I said E to you are in all. Wow. And then we say A-E-I-O-U. Y'all could owe me. Yeah, y'all owe me. Yeah, I felt that one. So when I say eternal, I didn't want to be etherically connected as E-T-E-R-N-A-L because that would feel like, how most people, they do it too. I'm in Ra and Amen and You don't, how do you know? You won't know till you grow into it, right? So I created that eternal out of what I saw of a creation, not knowing though that I drew the Ankh of 96. When a lot of Buddhists came in, because this would be the example of why they had the third person party. Because when you look at, and I say Dionysus is the Gemini. Gemini represents 3. He had to go back into his past. And in order for him to learn, he had to learn what was in the past of himself, which means you was 9 months birth. However, you need 3 months of when you before you came into the earth to see your existence. In order for you to do that, though, some of us have to take the Akashic records or go into the circadian rhythm to find it. And into the circadian rhythm is a point where the Akashic records can intermix your past, present, near future into 2, become 1. And that's where we get 21 from. You're like, whoa, how did that happen? You have a masculine and feminine on one side, and then you have a masculine, right? And you end up, when you blend these 2 together, it's like how you got that chain that goes where it's separated, and then all of a sudden when it goes together, it'd be like chink, and then it keeps going, and then once it comes apart again, and it still keep doing that. That's the interlock into life. That's the man and the woman that we call that became principles, to where we wanted to split it so much that now we fear things and we put them in compartments of the body. And now we have to actually touch each other in a different way versus touch each other in a different way. And we haven't found that out yet until we get around the woman and say, oh, we're not supposed to be acting like apes. You know, oh, we ain't supposed to be acting like gorillas. Oh, we're not supposed to be, because that's an act. You're a part of the action. Man is connected to the night, while moon is connected to the woman, right? Even though we're both connected to the moon as much as the woman is connected to the night. Now, the night for her will be her feminine, elegant side. The night for him will be like he's a noble. He's a knight. He wears the realm. He wears the connection, the headpiece to the feet. I'm talking about with the shoes all the way on up to the head, being a crown type level. Now, as a knight, it could be, you know, his headgear. But as the moon, she represented as the night being a mare. So now you got nightmare. They made it moon night. So this is that reverse nameplate that's put in front of us. That's one thing. You know, M is always before the K, but when you see MK, you already know. It could be an MK Ultra.
I already know.
Okay.
You know what?
And it's
that right there, you switching gears. This what I want to see. This what I know we're gonna do.
Oh, we already switching gears.
Yeah, we switching gears. We about to. So I already announced I felt a part 2. You saying MK Ultra? We definitely gonna do a part 2.
All right.
I'm regretting interrupting this frequency right now.
Yeah.
But schedule this thing called time. That concept says we need to
we can stop here.
Get together and reschedule the part 2 and then bring that announcement to the audience, and then they can join us and hear more about the MK Ultra. I know there's a whole section of this presentation that we have not yet shared yet. I'm looking at the presentation slides, and we got more slides to share. So
it's getting thick. This is where we get thick at.
Yes. So definitely we need to see you here again. We'll reschedule, as I mentioned. And if you would tell us what you would like for us to know before you leave today, and then we'll go ahead and speak our piece.
All right. So if you're more in tune with knowing about your Kemetic form, learn that it's not just in Africa, it's also here in Mesoamerica. That way you can find out that the moon night that it was being explained to us is different sections from different perceptions. And once you know Kansu is the explanation of why we got to go into the MK Ultra in our sequel. This will also help you with why we call it Trinity, and why is Trinity so important versus duat and duality. Now we see dial tones, and once we tune in, we also connect to an antennae, and antennae or aten is your antenna. How you connect to aten is on your erect erectile energy, not just the rectile as in reptile energy, because your heart has to be in it. Yeah, it has to be measured, light as the feather, and that's what we're measuring. And you're seeing it more and more. It's not going to be just in Moon Knight. It's going to be in a lot of movies. So stay tuned. Even with Black Adam, they're going to go harder even then. I don't even want to mention what's going to happen in there because it's whoo. I was like, man, they're about to go hard in here. So then now we're going to see who really is the ones that say, oh, I'm bowdy, or you're not bowdy, because you've been saying this like how long? Don't be acting like you ain't when you ain't. So it's giving us the true value of ourselves, the validity. And thank you. I give time to this itself. Like you said, it's like a fine-tuned combing to what we could speak on about it. Because there's a lot that I haven't even tapped into. I was just giving you a good way of, before I start to tap into this, before we start to even look at the pictures, at least you got now some kind of formula that I'm coming out of, to where I'm like, okay, this is these perceptions that he got from his conceptions. And, and it ain't just mine. You can see how it's on a wide scale that a lot of us in color form, chakras, what are they using against us if it's used against us in the first place? Now, I'm not saying that we got to be used. That's what I'm saying. When you find out it's us, now we can find out what's usable. And that's the whole, Capricorn put a cap on it. Yeah. Give thanks. Respect. I give thanks to the more signs too, because it's more signs. If it wasn't for them, man, it wasn't. I had to get more in tune with the Mason ability first from the Moor's ability. And because there was a door I had to walk through in a window I had to look out of, it was where the widow was looking out of the whole time. And so when they said help fallen humanity, it was explaining it from a culture point of view that a lot of us got misconstrued in. And so to take away that shine as a knight, as the Shriner, as whatever else that we call ourselves out there in the lodge, that y'all know who I'm talking to, this energy that we need to keep showing is to help our sisters no matter what, in any condition. We can't just say, if I gave her $1, what's supposed to give me back? What? That's not how we were functioning from the beginning. And because it's $1, it don't make sense. It's called fiat. It's a currency. So when you give it in exchange to someone, that's why the escape from, Michael was so easier to show you that he had finesse, he had charisma, he had character. And then you see them trying to, let's just change it, let's make him look like a pedophilia. And he had Never Land. He had the Peter Pan ability. You know what I mean? He was able to get anybody he wanted. he went so like, I'm away from y'all, I'm gonna get me a whole other me. Oh, another night, that's not you. So it had to have him even look back at himself like, I can't keep replaying myself. So what you see with anybody, they'll have a great death. And that was like the main part. I'm gonna just cut right here with that part where you can see he had this character in the movie, the series Moon Knight, had a great depths of himself that became depths with a PTH. That's why the snake has that sound. We wouldn't know we're using it at a profound moment. The snake is an ability to help you, not just hurt you. I know we know hurt first. That's the first thing we're going on. Oh, it's negative. Yet if you can get past that, now you can suffice through the what they call the MK Ultra. Now you know how to be a MK Ultra finder. And they're like, oh, that's what they did. Oh, now I can see out of the picture. I see very clearly now. Yeah. Turn the sound down sometimes when you got the horror movies on, or turn it down when you're looking at it. Just see what they doing to mess you up. It might be the sound itself. So if you're knowing how to be combative, you're saying, okay, well, it's the food, it's the color. Is anybody eating in the movie? Look for what's supposed to be a lifestyle in the movie. If it's not there, that might be the whole trick right there in itself. For a man, it's usually easy to find because the man look for himself. And he's like, wait a minute. I ain't in here. I ain't in here. But then I'll be like, nah, I forget this. This time who is me? He's just doing what I supposed to be doing. That's what they're doing. I see. I can switch this whole thing up. And that's how you switch that whole game up for yourself. Why? Well, because everything could be a game. However, we know it isn't. Okay. And since we know it isn't, it's again, commerce, culture. Your natural law is already there first. So they can't do none of these things without natural law already in acceptance to letting it happen. So now, how much in your nature are you coming out of naturalness? Or is it unnatural to identify? And that's when you see where you're at. I give thanks.
Gratitude. We again appreciate you being here. We look forward to you being here next time. Again, everyone, welcome to Karmic Dynasty. I'm glad you're here with us today. Enjoy your day. Until next time.
Fire. Fire, fire, fire.
They'll tell you what to do in life instead of everything you know that you could get. Don't let them guide your life towards regret. I'll fight for what I love with every breath. My past is filled with things I won't forget. I use them all to push me to my best. So treat the worst of times just like a test. If only I could go back in time, I'd tell myself that everything will end up alright. Just push yourself, test yourself, figure out what you like, and find your limits, don't be rigid, always work towards a prime. Surround yourself with open minds, people can change your life. A few friends with intent can help you feel alive. Find a passion, take some action, and with a little time, just be patient, make a statement, try to enjoy your life. They'll try to kick you while you're down. They wanna rise up while you drown.